Hey, just checking this. Can see four people online. If you can hear me, then you can just say something in the chat. It's my first time I'm going live on YouTube, so it's kind of disappointing. 1 second. All right. So I'm guessing I cannot share my screen here, but yeah, I would just like to tell a story in this one. It should be mostly about how I got into design, and I'm looking to do a better coverage later on in the actual video that'll be made based on the response on this one. But uh, I just wanted to say, I mean, I see a lot of people, breaking into design, and a lot of them actually aren't very well versed with the entire design industry, and they are confused because a lot of them are self-learned and they don't really have the hey, my ear, what's up? And a lot of people don't really have the bandwidth, or I would say, the luxury of going to a design school, or they don't have the luxury of learning from people who have learned from design schools. And I think over the time it has been a lot of people that have actually chosen to get into UI UX because the industry offers so much in that domain. And you can see all sorts of people coming in. I mean, you can see people from commerce, you can see people from multiple streams like uh, science, etc., coming in, technology. People have done engineering and they choose UI UX and design as a field, just because the variety of things you can do in this field is so humongous, right? So it's actually very, very interesting about that. So a few things that I would like to say is that one thing is that if you're breaking into UI UX design as a newbie, that's very new, and if you're coming from the 10K designers, or if you're coming from any other cohort, I know there are multiple of them online, but the initial thing is that people might take you a little bit different from, unless you're coming from a design school. Generally what recruiters want, and generally what recruiters also look for, I mean, this is changing as we speak, but they look for at least some background in the sense of a design school background, or in the sense of maybe some sort of experience beyond just uh, getting into Figma and just doing it. So they require some sort of basic, or I would say, uh, a benchmark over there. So that's one reason why people generally tend to not really look forward to you joining, unless they are a small startup that requires designers. But also another thing is, having these learnings from a design school actually helps you to design better as well. So if you could, and that's a huge plus in that side, if you could learn any of these things online, I would say that should also be one of the goals that you do. But beyond that, one of the reasons, yeah, coming back to why I'm making this video is, I faced similar challenges because I did not go to design school. I faced similar challenges, and I'll let you know why did I choose design as a field. I mean, it was not. I mean, a lot of people just do it, because hey, technology is growing. There's so many opportunities abroad, not even in India, but so many abroad as well. So, and the money you make is pretty good comparatively to the other things you might be doing. So one of the things in that field is like the technology space is growing so quickly, so will your money as well. But that is not the entire reason that everyone joins this field. Sometimes people are just passionate, and the passion keeps changing, right? So a few things on that end, like why do people get into this and stuff like that. So from my end, I think one of the biggest things was that as a kid, and I don't know why, but I was really interested into colors. Like, I used to be some of the person, like if I don't like a color or something, I probably won't buy it, or I would not really care if that is not colorful, or I wouldn't really care if something is not the color that I want. And this stays true today. Like, for example, if I'm buying furniture for the home, I will probably go for the weirdest color, or I would probably go for something that's more English or more nuanced and not really the mainstream thing. For example, when I'm buying phones as well, I don't generally look for black. I would like to have something different. Like my first notion is, I mean, obviously the phone has to be a bang for the buck. But the second thing is how different is the color, or why is this color so unique, and even the ratio of the color, right? For example, you can't really have something that's give me 1 second. I'm just going to set up my ring light. I think that qualifies me as a YouTuber now if I have a ring light, I guess. Uh, that's what I've heard. Yeah. So one of the things also is that, one that I have always been inspired by colors, and I one of the things that's my father is a paint, like he's into the paints industry. So ever since then he was into paint, like he was into manufacturing these paints for car companies, for example Toyota, and a lot of other things. He has worked in Nerolac, he has worked in Asian Paints, etc. And one of the things was that every time at home, I mean, whenever we should do some home painting, even that, but also otherwise, he used to carry a lot of these Pantone shades, right? So they used to have a lot of colors and all. So you should just ask me, that, hey, which color do you think will go best? Without having a reference of the car, without having any reference of any what is it that color for, and I should just like and choose the colors, right? So I mean that was one of the reasons I think I got so involved into colors, and yeah, today as well I am very biased towards it. I mean, you show me a shade of purple and I probably will like it, or I probably won't. Even for shoes, for that matter, right? Like one of the reasons people prefer a Nike Air Force, like that's completely white, but you wouldn't go for anything completely white otherwise, is because the perception of color, it brings you emotion, right? So yeah, I think that was one way that I started. And obviously I was too much into painting, but again, I did not go to, I was a very picky kid back then. I was very socially introverted. I didn't really want to go to classes and all, where I was told to, maybe join elementary or intermediate, but I didn't really want to go to the classes. And I also had a lot of shifts in the past where I used to change. We changed a lot of schools. I mean, I think 3 schools for me. So adjusting to each of these cultures was difficult. I mean, it's not like you're moving to a different country, but changing schools culture also was difficult because you have to adapt to the entire way that they operate and all, right? So yeah, I think that also brought a change. But overall, I think as growing up, one of the major things was that yeah, me being in that entire scenario of paints, and my father has getting these Pantone things, getting cars, except car logos, etc. That really struck to me, and I used to ask questions like, why is this logo like that, or why is this logo in a Toyota, like why is the Toyota logo having a globe over there, right? Which actually, if you think of it, if that's how I got into design as well. But if you think of it, that these questions actually matter because you're curious about something, right? And as designers, I think one of the best things to have is curiosity. I mean, it could be as a person as well. You could be very curious as a person and you would succeed. But as a designer as well, having some sort of curiosity helps you to actually design better for the people you are designing for, right? So there's that. And moving on, I think growing up, I had a lot of I'm lucky to and touch wood that I had a great access to technology as early as I could. Hey Mohit, what's up, man? I'm not gonna say the initials that you just said. I don't know what is MF, but okay. But yeah, as growing up, I think one of the major things that I had was access to technology early in the days. So I think back in my first grade itself, we had a we had a computer that my uncle or my father bought. That was the Celeron, Pentium Celeron. For those of you who know what that is. But in that sense, I think one of the initial things that I did was there was a game called Helicopter. There was a helicopter game. I mean, I'm not gonna bring the song back up, the TikTok song, but there was a helicopter game which used to, there were multiple enemy helicopters coming, and you had a cannon at the bottom, and you used to just shoot them up. And then of course Prince of Persia, the first one, the black and white, the legendary game with the spikes and all, which was another one. So having these access to this technology also got me, I think, a little bit. I mean, at least towards technology, but not design. Got me a little bit more hooked towards that, right? And then we had a simple television which was very small. I mean, I think the yeah, my good old days. I think one of the smaller televisions which you have, that is, the Doordarshan one and all, and mostly it just has these ants coming up or the static. So we had one of those, and I used to just watch. I mean, I used to set time for watching Jungle Book or Mowgli, whichever you want to call it. and that also I think had me some sort of get. I mean, I'm just trying to collate the things I should do, but I don't know if all of them led me to design. But I should really enjoy animated things like animated movies and stuff, or series and stuff, and obviously the good old Shaktiman, which is I think coming back now, hopefully in a better, or I won't say better, but at least in a good form that we won't cringe. But uh, I think that was another one where got hooked into the pop culture thing, or not necessarily pop culture, but got hooked into the whole superhero thing, right? So, but I don't think that led me to design. But I was very fascinated by logos as well. So if you see each of the superheroes, right, they have a logo on the chest. So one of the reasons that I actually liked all of these things, the symbolism and all, is because I could try to relate what does it mean, right? What does chakra mean on Shaktiman's chest, or what does the S stand for beyond hope on Superman's chest, right? So so yeah, I mean, all of these things were super interesting to me. Uh, Moving on, I think my biggest hobby was I think drawing and painting. Not drawing necessarily, but as I like colors, I used to paint a lot. I mean, you can't see a lot of that. Hey Rick, what's up, man? All good. Thanks for joining in. I think we have three people. I think that's a record now, right now, and I hope this only grows once things go forward. But yeah, I think sorry to cut the chain, but one of the reasons also, I mean, I forgot to explain this, but one of the reasons that I'm also doing YouTube is because the community of YouTube is very strong. So if you tomorrow want to actually go out and create more videos on design, and I think a lot of design creators are coming up, but I think video is a format that's not really explored a lot. I think we all know Saptarshi is coming up, right? And we all know Abhinav was there, and we all know Siddharth is there. So I think why would I create my own thing? But the thing is, I think one of the reasons is that all of these people actually inspire me, and it's not like I'm a competitor to them. Definitely not with 4 views, but one of the things is also I want to tell my story and probably help people on why should they get into design, and if they should even get into design, and also to actually build my personal brand. I mean, I think a lot of the people actually go to blogs and stuff, which is really good. I used to do that too, but I think video is a format that I can explore myself, like express myself better, not explore, express myself better. And being a public speaker, I think video could be a good thing for me as well. And maybe committing to this a longer period of time could actually also help me to reach a lot of masses, right? So a few things on those lines on why I want to actually continue this like that. And honestly, I wanted to make a video, like a proper video, but I thought I should start it with a live so that I can at least see what the points I'm conveying make sense or they don't. So your chat window is always open to actually, if you want to ask anything, you can ask right now and I can jump into that as well. Right. So yeah, as growing up, I was really into painting. So I used to paint a lot. I mean, not on a canvas or something, but on a drawing pad or whatever, right? Whatever you used to get, these big books that I used to have. So a lot of my paintings actually got featured in school, or on those walls that you have. Like I don't know what this wall, the showcase wall, where every group has this wall where you have to paste your painting there and all. So a lot of the teachers actually wanted me in their class next year or something. So that was really cool. And so I used to draw these leopards. I used to be crazy into animals, superheroes, all of these characters. I think characters have been the major thing where on how I began. So I used to be really interested in characters, which can be in motion, right? So I used to love to draw people in motion, or in a in a stance where they are trying to do something. So almost like it's a moment in time that has been captured, right? So I used to love that. And beyond that, I think it naturally came up that hey, I should probably get deeper into painting and all. But like I said, I was socially introverted, so I didn't really go into all of these classes and all. And I used to just paint on my gut. I think it would have been better. And if I had to change something today, I think I would say I should have gone to elementary and intermediate classes. I mean, they don't really matter much, but at the same time, they give you a lot of perspectives. I mean, I haven't seen anyone flaunt elementary and intermediate degree beyond school, but I think they give you a lot of perspective and on how to draw things a different way. So I think that could have helped. But yeah, overall, I think in the school itself, that was majorly it. That is majorly how I began, and then obviously had access to technology very at a very young age. So I think I think by second standard, I think I had access to internet as well, which was very. I mean, I'm grateful to my parents to actually do that for me. And after second standard, I think my internet was taken away, obviously. I think beyond after second, because we moved again, we moved to a different place in fourth. So then my internet access came back. So to give you a gist of where my movings were, I initially worked. I initially was born in Malad, which is in Mumbai, and in Malad, I think I used to go to that was mostly pre-primary and primary school. And then my dad had a crazy idea that, oh, flats are good in the Virar, they're big and stuff, which was great. But moving there, you were disconnected from the entire part of Mumbai, right? So Virar was actually, but the only good thing was Virar actually, the school in Virar, I think the name NGV Varta, the school in Virar actually gave me a lot of backbone to actually improve my English, because they had compulsory English. So if you ever say anything more beyond English, they will probably hit you with a scale every time. So I've been at the brunt of that multiple times. But if you do not speak English in that school, in the premises, they will hit you. So I think for 4 years I had to go through that trauma, but that actually made my English a lot better. And by the time then we moved back to Borivali. So we moved back. I mean, moved back to the other part, right, near Malad, that is Borivali. And over there, I think there again I joined a convent school, St. Lawrence. And here the funny part was that I used to always speak English because of my short trauma back in the day of the 4 years that I spent in the other school, which was English compulsory. The people over here, which was a proper convent school, a proper Catholic driven school, they used to ask me, hey, why are you always speaking English? And I'm like, I literally used to eye roll, right? So it's hilarious. So yeah, I mean, those were the things. And moving these things were a little difficult because you would be at the top of one game. I would be at the top of my game in the Virar school. Malad, I don't even remember because it's primary. And then when I moved to this the school in Lawrence, it was completely different because the entire culture changed and people were so much better than me, right? And it's like, holy shit, how am I supposed to meet that standard? So yeah, I think that also made me better because a lot better people out there. I mean, if you, it's like the smartest person in the room, right? You don't want to be that. You want to be with smarter people. So there was that. So, and then moving on, I think since fifth to tenth, I think I took a lot of part in the design things. I mean, designing and stuff like that. Not designing, but drawing and stuff like that. But majority of my time also went into me playing a lot of games on the PC. I mean, one of the reasons that I'm a gamer today. When I say gamer, I don't really play a lot of my FPS, but I really love third-person shooters and multiplayers. I like if they have they have a party element to it. Like I love party royale and stuff. But majorly I'm into either multiplayer like GTA Online or something on those like third person shooters. So I wouldn't really call myself a gamer. If you consider FPS as my main thing, then I'm probably not it. But third person shooters are something that I really enjoy. So then there was that. I got into Pokemon on the, I think, the Game Boy version, but on the PC through an emulator. And that also again is a very character driven thing. So I enjoyed that. And I obviously, there were fire, there were water, and all these different types. So again, one of the things that the entire game theory or all of that thing came into me, and I was like very fascinated by it, on how they make these things, the copy, the the Easter eggs, etc. So these are some things that I really enjoy, and they thrill me, right? So yeah, I think that's where it all came along, where I decided to, hey, let's make a very nice, let's try to play this game. And I used to play it day long, day in and day out. And then I think after my 10th, I mean, we can go back into my school days and stuff, but I don't want to cover in that this one. But after my 10th, I think one of the decisions I had to take is like, should I take science or commerce? And I don't really know why I took commerce up, but I think one of the reasons was that a lot of my friends were taking commerce up, and science was actually I enjoyed science, but I didn't really know how much would I enjoy the mathematics. So I was really weak at maths. I still am. And as a designer, that's a little shameful that you're weak at maths, because all of your designs matter on maths, like your golden ratio, your pixel density, etc. But one of the reasons that I didn't really enjoy math, I think I really enjoyed math in a while until the algebra and geometry equations came in, which is where I was like, okay, this is too much for me. How's the experience with VR? Like, you mean VR design, Shubham? If you're still there, we'll come back to that. But yeah, I think mathematics was something that I was always weak in. I think I still am. But coming back to that, I think one of the reasons I chose commerce was also because a lot of people were taking it, and honestly I heard that commerce people get a lot more time during college than science people. But I think I think I would say I would have enjoyed science too, at least in the junior college. So I went to Thakur College of Science and Commerce, where I took up commerce. And although I enjoyed a commerce lifestyle, I would say commerce was not really a thing for me. But luckily, I had taken up maths. Even though I sucked at it, I took up maths, and I think my entire goal was to become a chartered accountant. But coming to like 12th and stuff, I figured out that that would not be the right thing for me, because I was very tech, like I was very inclined towards tech, and I used to do a lot of tech things. And in these 2 years, I think one of the biggest things that I did was I used to freelance a lot in these 2 years. I mean freelance as in it could be for free as well, like literally freelance. But I used to look for stuff online which interests me, and then just get into it and meet people online. And that has always been me. I mean, I'm never shy to meet people online, and I'm never shy to actually um, have any sort of like any sort of judgment towards people online. But I used to meet people online through various forums and all, and then I think few of my best forums were hack forums. Then there was, and I was really into mobile phones that day. So I used to literally draw. I used to be a big fan of Nokia, and that brings me to another point where how did I come up to technology and design, which is a very pivotal point for me. But I used to be really into phones that time. So phones, as in, I used to be really into hardware of the phones. So I used to actually look into hardware. Nokia was one of my favorite phones because they used to have these crazy hardware designs, as opposed to today, where all phones just look like a block of brick, right? Or brick, like. So all of these phones actually used to interest me. And then what I used to do is I used to actually sketch phones and how they can become better. For example, if you have an N73, which was my first phone actually in 10th, after 10th actually. So N73 was my, so I used to love the joystick. I used to love the camera design. It used to slide out and then the camera used to pop up, etc. So I used to make these designs on my paper and pen in my in my 10th uh, tutorials group, where we used to go and have classes and all. I used to just scribble on the back of the page, and normally people scribble different things, but I used to really make these intricate models of phones and get into nitty gritties of it. So there was that. And overall, I think beyond that, I think also another thing was that uh, one of the key moments that the thing that the entire design UI UX came into me is when I was talking to my father one day, and we were deciding which phone should I buy. This was because before N73, before I got my first phone, and I was really fascinated by Sony Ericsson for some reason, because they had these really fancy commercials of people shaking the phone and the music track changing, etc. And Hrithik Roshan being in that, and the logo was orange, and the Sony Ericsson logo was back orange and stuff. So so my entire debate with my dad is, why not Sony Ericsson? Why should I go for a Nokia? And my dad only said one thing, that hey, look, if you can go for whatever you want, but Nokia has really good user friendly. Nokia has a very user friendly experience, and that really stuck to me for some reason. I mean, I still remember that, and the user friendly comment was something that really stuck to me. So I started to look at it from that lens from then on. And I think beyond that, I think it came up to be that, hey, how can I make something more user friendly? And that's how I got into the online forums during freelance and all. And honestly, I just started as a graphic designer, and after 10th, I think one of the me and my friends actually founded this company called Gaming On. I'm pretty sure you must have heard of it, which was like a gaming company, but it was very, I mean, we were still kids. It was like an indie company where we didn't want to register and all. And we made a couple of games on Play Store, where we launched a game called Kite, which I was just it was Makar Sankranti time, and I was just looking at the sky, and I'm like, hey, there are kites flying. Let's make that game, right? So we made a couple of games, and I started as a graphic designer, and then I got a Wacom to actually sketch out a few. Um, I was sketching out a few designs. You can see that on DeviantArt. Actually, there were two designs. I didn't go ham on that after a while, but I think I used to sketch out 8 hours per day over a week. That's about 5 days a week, 8 hours to just make one design, and then I used to be like, "Hey, I'm done. Now, no more design, no more sketching for at least 10 years." Sorry, but yeah, I used to not. Then I didn't stick to that for the longest period of time. But yeah, I think one of the reasons that I got into it is because, hey, let's do this for a while. I mean, I used to really enjoy the whole designing thing for sketching and painting on a Wacom, and mostly, yeah, that was probably one of the biggest things that uh, I wanted to own, because the Wacom looks like a cool device, and you can always erase it as well. So there was that. And moving on, I think beyond the Wacom things, I used to contribute to. I used to be very inclined towards operating systems like Symbian, Android, etc. So Android coming in later, but Symbian was one of the key things in Nokia back then. So I used to be on Zedge making themes. If you don't know about Zedge was a platform for people to download themes, wallpapers, etc. I think it's banned right now in India for some reason, but I made a lot of friends there as well, because there was a whole community where you could chat, or you could share things and get discuss ideas, etc. So I used to go there and just make a lot of themes, make wallpapers, make. So generally it very basically started as a graphic design, and I wouldn't even say I was a really good graphic designer, but I used to really enjoy playing with fonts. I used to enjoy playing with all these Photoshop things. I used to do a lot of Photoshop back then. I used to learn everything in Photoshop through online tutorials. I used to be like, hey, let's try this, shadow, or let's try this photo manipulation tutorial. So I used to spend a lot of time online, like a lot of time. I mean, I think I've spent more time online when I was a kid than I have done in the entire pandemic, and that he used to be actually a lot of constructive time. I would say. I wouldn't say it used to be just me scrolling upon reels and stuff, or watching something just useless. It used to be actually constructive time where you used to learn things. I would love to get back at it actually. But social media has spoiled all of us, and this was before Facebook. Or I think the only thing back then which was there was Orkut, and I used to love Orkut. I mean, Orkut was one of the biggest things back in the day for anyone in school and stuff. I used to You can just go and go into any scraps. You can just have fun and stuff like that. So it was one of the, and I remember I used to, because we didn't have internet because I didn't have internet in 10th, obviously, because Indian parents, they cut off your internet and televisions back in 10th. So nothing different for me, but I used to go into the cyber cafe and be on awkward, and he'd be like, "Hey, everyone!" So one hour in a week, I used to just be there. And then after 10th, yeah, this was in 10th, and then after 10th also awkward and stuff continued. But I think Facebook was a new kid on the block, and even Facebook I had a lot of fun. I used to have these food fights and stuff, all of that, and yeah. So beyond that, I think, yeah, these communities that I found, I used to hang out a lot with them. I think over time, I think if you check I think the most time I've spent, I would say I've spent more time in these communities and through these freelance things, which I've done at a period of time, that I have probably more work experience there than any work experience you can see now, which is hilarious, because my stints are normally short, but I think that was a great time to be in. And then I think all these communities and these Zedge, etc., came in, and I was really into mobile phones back then. So then then I got then after my college, because I said I didn't really enjoy commerce, I got into BSc which was because of maths. The only thing that I hated actually helped me out to get back into science. So there's a loophole in the system, not a loophole, but there's a genuine way that you can get into science after taking commerce. Is that if you have taken maths and you've scored a certain amount, you can actually get into science again. So that was one thing that uh, actually had me to actually made me to get into science, right? Because otherwise I would be stuck into commerce and I had to become a CA. And I don't know if you want to see me in spectacles, but I don't think I look that great in spectacles. But yeah, then I had to look like that all the time. No offense to CAs in this, if they're watching. I don't know if why will they be watching me talking about design, but yeah. So coming back, I think one of the greatest decisions was that, because then I got back into technology, and technology was actually interesting because I enjoyed a lot of my BSc IT, because that was bachelor's in science and in information technology. I enjoyed quite of it because it was not too much engraved into just computer, what is it called, uh, computer science, but it was also a lot about the actual workings of the back end, the actual workings of how things work, etc. So there was that, and that was about 3 years, and I made a lot of good friends in these 3 years, and they still are friends with me right now. And in that sense, one thing I think I got a lot into Android as well. Then I got into uh, Android quite a bit, and I think the first Android phone that I owned was a Nexus 4, which truly love. I think that has been probably the greatest design of the phone, in the back of the phone with the glass, in any phone I've seen over the years. And yeah, Android, I started again with the whole theming thing, but because Android had more customizability back then, so I started with the themes again. And moving forward, I think I moved into a lot more of these designing things, UI UX things. It was not very apparent, but I met a few friends in the GDG group, etc., where I actually learned from them on what design is and how does it work, right? So all of these things actually helped me to actually grow. And I don't think this only happened at the end of my bachelor's in science, because then I started to actually go out and actually look for things by myself instead of just staying home. So I used to actually go out and seek these communities, etc., which was actually interesting because you had these online communities offline communities back then, which used to happen, and people used to actually people used to actually come to these communities, as opposed to today, where you have a little bit of because of the whole pandemic situation. I don't think I have seen these things happen for at least 2 years now. So yeah, I mean, I started to learn a lot about design on YouTube and all, and one of the greatest motivators for me was actually material design. And material design was one of the things that actually got me very interested into the whole thing of design, the way it operates, the philosophy behind it, the whole paper and ink metaphors, etc. And I think that was one thing that actually helped me grow. And I think now, when I say that, I think now people have it's not just material design as I think of it now, but I used to be very inclined towards material design. I used to only design in material design. I used to be like, every other design is probably shit. But now that I think of it, it depends on the business as well, and it depends on what sort of system you're targeting, and the easier it is to target a few systems. But I normally, when I see a lot of designs online, and if it's a material design themed thing online, and then it automatically feels like, hey, this is more user friendly to me. Coming back to my first point, and my father said, like, if it's more user friendly, it's probably going to get more people actually thinking about it and using it more. So yeah, that was how I started with design. I think it was all through external communities. uh, Again, after my bachelor's, I took a master's in computer science, which was MCA, Master in Computer Applications. Sorry, and I don't think that was a great thing to do. I think I should have waited it out a little bit and tried a more design centric course. But there was no way for me to know, because I was not into that many communities at that time to actually understand. Hey, there's a design course happening, and probably I didn't know a lot of. I mean, I didn't know actually there were design courses happening. So maybe that was a lack of ignorance, or just not having being connected with a lot of people who you should be taking design. So I took a master's in computer applications, and I think it was probably the same thing that I did uh, in BSc but a lot more theory this time. But the only good thing was that it gave me a lot of time to actually go and seek out communities, make a lot of networks, meet a lot of people, do other things on the side. And in this 3 years of masters, I think one of the biggest things that I realized, that was through communities like Stack Overflow, but for designers, there's something called Stack Exchange UX design. That I realized that I'm really good at UX design, and I really thought that this is, if I have to make a dent, and if I have to make a career in something which I can truly enjoy and live for the longest time, I think that should be user experience design. Because this it is something that comes naturally to me. It is something that I don't need to think to actually tell you that what is the best thing to do. Uh, I can just on the fly just tell you that, hey, this is not good, this is good. uh, Although, and I might have some real world examples, so that has been in the design field. I think that has been one of the biggest things for me to get me going, is I can actually let you know through real life examples on why is this good design and why is this bad design, by just exploring a lot of products. And I still do that to this day, where I explore too many products and I relate them to the experience that we are like as a product, if whatever you're designing is providing. So if you're thinking, like, let's say, make an app on, let's say, NGOs or donations, then I would probably know on what are the best practices, not just in that industry, but beyond that industry as well, across the mobile spectrum of things. So I think Stack Exchange that way really helped. I mean, I could help a lot of people on Stack Exchange, and that's how I got to know that, hey, this is something that's really sticking out. I mean, regardless of me, I mean, I could code for a living, but there are better people than me out there coding. So why should I get into it? And if I'm really passionate and I'm really doing great at design, then I should probably just stick at it. So without any formal education, without any of the things, I actually got into design, and I had a couple internships. Few of them I really tanked, right? Uh, I Because again I didn't come from a design background, so obviously I wasn't very well accepted in the design industry. But as when I moved on a little bit more into the through my net, and I think one of the biggest things in the 3 years, the network I made through that, I could get a lot of internships to start with. So a friend of mine actually hooked me up with an internship in Credar, which was in Powai in Mumbai, and I learned a lot over there. And I kept going. I kept looking for more opportunities, and I think that has been one of the biggest things, that I chase opportunities myself. I don't look for people to connect with me, and I know what I want, in the sense that, hey, today if I want to join this company, it's not generally for the people, mostly for the people and the brand not so much, but really enjoy working with good people, and also about if they are curious, or how their personality actually drives me a lot. So there was that. And yeah, I mean, I had a lot of challenges when I just started out, even after having all the stack exchange experience. None of that actually counts when you join an industry, because the expectations are super different, right? That's the gap that there is in the whole technology world, right? Where what you've been taught and what you learn online, or what you learn in schools and colleges, etc., they can't really match up to what is expected out of you in an actual environment industry, right? So I had a lot of challenges back then, and I used to like go nights and nights over just to uh, I wanted to create a body of work, because one thing I realized is I don't have a good body of work. And I think anyone starting out, and even if you're in 10K cohort, right, one of the things that you'll understand is that a body of work is very important. So that body of work, I could just create. I mean, I was creating every day. I used to do daily UI, and I know now that I know people actually go through daily UI stuff, people generally take it as a bad thing. But back then, I didn't have many options back then. So I used to just go up and search for daily UI, and I used to make one every day. Like, I think I did a 100-day streak. I think, not sure, 60, beyond 60. I'm sure, not sure if I reached 100, but I used to do daily UI every single day, and it like if it's not happening, I would stay up till 3 a.m. and do it. But I had to ship a design every single day. That was my thing, to make my body of work. And once that body of work was made, it was very easy for me to get these opportunities, like lucrative things, to work with the founders, etc., in companies where I was like, I could only imagine getting into. I mean, not the biggest companies, but I enjoy and I prefer smaller teams. So I used to chase them and make good designs. Not the best UI designs you've seen, but some quirky designs, etc., which has always been my thing. So yeah, I think that's how I got into design. And moving on, I think product design only came to me in my first job, where I was working with the founder directly, and they wanted me to get into product management. But I think I was only 23 back then, and they said, "Oh damn, then you should just stay with design, because product management is huge different skill set, right? Has a steep learning curve, and you need to do a lot of things." So I mean, I think overall, even my first internship, they asked me to get into product management, which I mean, now that I know, I've worked with a lot of product managers, I understand like, hey, how they are, etc. But like that, how they work, etc. And but I think I didn't have the bandwidth, or I would say I didn't have the acumen back then to actually lead product management. But it was super interesting to me because I love to think about strategy. I love to think about how will things work and making a whole charter, roadmap, etc. So even as a design, I would probably, like today, if you ask me, I would love to probably make a roadmap for the entire design for the one product and then execute towards that, instead of just picking up things that just come in, right? Which is very important. I think as a designer, I think being visionary is very important, because your entire team might not have the vision, but as a designer, you know how things are supposed to look tomorrow. So yeah, I think that was it. And I think I don't know if I've covered a lot, but any other questions, then uh, you can go ahead with it. To answer Shubham Vyas' question, I think how the experience VR. I think I didn't get a chance to design for VR because it requires a lot of engines like Unreal, etc. But I did have a chance to at least talk about a lot about my. So I used to use Google Cardboard a lot because it was the cheapest VR set available. You could just make it on your own. So over there, I think I learned a lot about the VR principles of design. I learned a lot about how do you actually design for VR. Which after a while, now this year that I've used the Meta Quest, which was Oculus Quest back in the day, I realized that VR is. I still see a lot of apps that don't design VR very well. I mean, if it's even the official Meta app, right? Because there are very nuanced things that you need to understand about VR before you start, developing or designing for it. The principles are supposed to be very, very thorough, because you can't just show a light at the user right when they're in a dark environment. Like sudden changes are very, very difficult to make. So I don't think I have a lot of experience with VR design, but I would say I have at least some sort of knowledge on the principles on how do you actually get started with it. Any other questions? I see five people. I hope. I mean, that's actually a good count for the first time I'm doing this. So that's actually interesting. But I'm looking forward to actually making this live actually, because I want to make this live, and I just live as in I want to publish this on the channel itself, and maybe I'll make an actual video out of it later on. I'll go through my video myself, and then probably take some steps towards that. So yeah, if there are no questions, I think I'll end this. Anyone? Cool. Thank you so much, and I'll see you on the other side. Hopefully, to do more of these live things, or at least more premieres and more. Okay, Sanket has a question. Okay, you are a developer with 2 years experience, and UI is appealing me a lot. As soon as I say I'm gonna now end the stream, people start with questions. So I guess that's just FOMO acting up for them. But sure. Sanket, I think. So Sanket's question is, he's a UI developer with 2 years experience, and UI UX design appealing him a lot. He wants some guidance if he can transit from dev to design. How does he need to start with internships again? I think if you've been a UI developer, I don't know how long you've been there, 2 years experience. I think if you've been as a UI developer for 2 years, I think you have a lot of knowledge in the UI development side. I think learning a few courses, or even when you're where you're working right now, if you could just talk to the UI guy and tell the employer that, hey, my interests also align with UI designing. Can I have a session with the UI UX guy, and maybe can you seek a path for me where I can join as a UI UX designer? If the company is not offering it, then you could probably get into internships. Uh, I wouldn't say internship is very required for you. If you learn the basics online, you could learn the basics online, apply them, and show them that, hey, this is the UI that I developed and designed, right? So if you do both of them, that'll be great as well. But you need to have some sort of portfolio back there to actually show that you have done some UI design as well, which is actually good for you because you already know UI development. So you could actually make it on Webflow and just post it there and do some HTML, CSS magic around it. Mayur has a question. With so much happening in design field right now, what would you give to people experiencing FOMO imposter syndrome, being super new to this? I think this has always been a problem for me as well. I think I am very much affected by FOMO myself. I would say if you don't achieve that. For example, if I had to make, let's say, sorry, my internet was probably weird. Yeah, what I was saying is, if you are at a place where you see a lot of people doing different stuff that is very good, very cool and stuff, like like the design is super cool. Try to compare with them that, hey, how what am I comparing myself with, right? Does this person have a lot of experience in that field? They probably do. If they're making such great UI designs, if they're making so much good stuff, they probably have a lot of experience in that field. Or if they don't, they probably have a lot of time that they have spent to do that, right? So instead of getting into FOMO, probably just ask them if they are your friend, or if you can even contact them. How long did it take for you to become that thing? For example, if you ask me now, I'm, let's say, I started my I started entered the industry back in 2017, right? So sorry for my maths, but I think it's been 5 to 6 years. Um, and yeah, I think it takes a lot of time for that, right? You can't just expect to get somewhere with just 1 year of knowledge of something, and crack something that a 10-year person has done. So even when today I compare people, right, I look at myself like, oh, I need to get to this level of this influencer back there on LinkedIn, or this influencer back on YouTube or something. But honestly, that doesn't make sense because they started differently as well. So today, when I was making my YouTube, or for the longest time that I've been procrastinating to make this video, I wanted a super cool I wanted a super cool background. I wanted a super cool this. I mean, at home, I have the luxury to do that, but I was like, dude, I should just get started. So let's just do a live, man. I mean, it's my first video. There are probably not going to be a lot of people. Probably it will just be me. So when I came at 3 p.m. over here to my record thing, I was like, I'm going to record it anyway, even if there are zero viewers. Luckily, there are 5 to 7 of them. So I'm glad. So when I compare it, like if I had compared this with some designers who already made it big on YouTube, I'd be like, bro, they're getting 200 views. What am I doing? Why am I only getting 5? That's being selfish. That's being actually, I would say, selfless towards yourself. I think that's not the right way to go, because you need your. I mean, you are your biggest friend, right? You need to constantly give yourself positive reinforcement, actually, to actually become better at what you do. If you yourself criticize and get into FOMO that, hey, this person is doing that better, then you're probably going to fail, because you yourself are being your enemy right now. Whereas you could be like, hey, in 1 minute I got one other viewer. Hey, that's cool, right? Apart from, hey, that person has 200 views on a Saturday, whereas I only have 6 views. That's not going to work. So I think everyone struggles from FOMO. No, the only way to go about it is to keep doing, get into a discipline of having it maybe once a week, once a month, etc., and keep on doing with it. And then once you get into it, I think that FOMO will go away eventually, because you'll see that progress happening. If you keep thinking about it and if you keep comparing without taking action, that's going to cause FOMO. Any other questions? And imposter syndrome, everyone has some sort of imposter syndrome. Everyone thinks they are not that great, right? I think there are a lot of articles on imposter syndrome across the board. It especially happens when you're early in the career, or in the mid of your career, where you feel like, oh shit, I'm not that great. And trust me, I think a lot of seniors as well face it. And this is the opposite way. Seniors might face it that they are not as good as the juniors. For example, if someone today comes in saying that, hey, I have been 7 years in the industry, or have been 10 or 15 years in the industry, but this guy with 2 years experience is making so many better animations than I am. But you have to understand, they come from a different skill set, they come from a different perspective. So learning, I think, has been the biggest. I mean, if you always focus yourself on learning, on how much are you learning at some place, or how much are you learning from the other person, I think that is the biggest way to actually avoid FOMO, instead of competing with them, because FOMO arise from competition or missing out on, right? But if you just be friends with them and learn what they're doing, and focus on your priorities, that, do I want to do this? Do I want to learn, let's say, After Effects, and actually get better at it, or do I want to do design, UI UX design? Now, people, I know for a fact that in 10K's fourth cohort, there were a lot of people actually who wanted to learn Blender and 3D. So they had an entire different Discord group created. But the main thing, what they paid for in that 10K cohort, was UI UX design. So are you going to learn that, or are you going to learn Blender? So I think one of the reasons that people actually went to learn Blender, I don't know how many of them actually completed learning Blender, but it's always easy to get FOMO and get carried on to a different path. But soon you'll realize that okay, if I check out my priorities first, that hey, is it good? Is it what I'm looking forward to? Is this what I'm looking forward to, or is this just something I'm going into because everyone else is going into it, right? So I'll tell you a great example of FOMO myself. I have a lot of friends who are moving abroad. I have a lot of friends who are moving to Berlin. I have a lot of friends who are moving to the States, moving to Canada, moving to UK, etc. And I feel I'm like, hey, all of these people are getting to move abroad. I mean, considering me, I think I can move abroad too. But then I realize, what is the purpose? What is the purpose that they're moving abroad? Is it that they're getting settled? Is it that they just want to enjoy? Is it that the jobs over here are not paying them that much? Right? All of the things matters a lot, right? So if you want a better pay, but you're going also open to taking the tax, is one thing important. So I read this very nice quote that is about FOMO. It relates to FOMO. So if you feel like, let's say person X in a company, or a person Y in the industry has been doing so well that you feel like, hey, I'm missing out because I'm not doing what this person has been doing. Just think of it that would you trade your exact life, your entire life for that person's life, and you can't miss out on anything. Your answer, if you think over it for a while, your answer will be probably no, because the person might be going through a lot more other things that you might be happy about. They must have already made it. Let's say they are the top number one YouTuber. Let's say they're the top number one designer, but there are a lot of things that you don't know about their life that you probably wouldn't trade your life for. So I think that is one of the key takeaways that you should have whenever you're experiencing FOMO or whenever you're comparing with other people. But yeah, I think that was it. Unless there are any other questions, I'll end this and I'll make this live for other people to view. Thank you.